Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to this Marvel Snap guide. We're going to be discussing the best Spotlight caches for October and November in Marvel Snap. I can't believe it's been 2 years of Snap already. We're going to be discussing those Spotlight caches to be upcoming, which ones are worth targeting, which ones are worth skipping. But before we do that, there's a couple things worth noting. The first is that we're working with a lot of data mined information here. A ton of things can change. Even if the data mines don't change, the meta shifts very rapidly in Marvel Snap. OTAs happen, patches happen, and we have a new mechanic called Activate, which can be applied to a number of the cards we're going to be discussing today. A lot of things can change. The second thing worth noting is that, this is just one man's opinion. What I would recommend you do, especially if you're someone on limited resources, or of course someone who wants to make the best of their limited resources, use my opinion to help inform a greater idea of what you want to do. I strongly suggest you take a look at some other content creators and generate like a consensus as to what people are feeling about different Spotlight caches and individual cards, okay? So I think that it's best to get a nice, well-rounded opinion as opposed to just kind of like sticking to one man's thoughts, okay? That's just my opinion on the matter anyways. So let's dive in. We start with October 1st to October 8th, and it's Scream. The thing that concerns me about this Scream week is that the card Scream looks incredible. I do think it's really, really good. I think that it has a very high floor and a very high ceiling, only limited by its supporting cast. Like, you're gonna have to play Polaris and Spider-Man and Kingpin. And whether or not those cards are gonna be meta-defining in their own right to support this potentially fantastic card is, we're gonna have to test it. I'm super excited about Scream. It reminds me of what like Thena did for Kitty Pryde, except Thena has a little more scaling power. This has a higher floor because it starts at 2 and not 0 like Thena. Thena gains +3, this gains +2, but you can see what they do for those individual archetypes. And yes, you're going to have to play some cards like Arrow and some cards you probably haven't played in a while, but Scream's going to benefit from that. But most importantly, there's a great curve. You have the Kingpin, you have Scream itself, and then you could have obviously Kraven as a backup plan. You got Spider-Man, you got Polaris, you got a lot of plays here, okay? And so Scream, I feel, is a very fascinating card. It's really unfortunate that they basically put fodder in the Spotlight caches. Now, Man-Thing and Mobius aren't terrible. Man-Thing's actually seeing like a little bit of play, and it's performing pretty good in these like toxic junk style decks, and junk's all over the place right now. But they're Series 4 cards. And so when you're talking about like actual value for your Spotlight keys, these are very low. Mobius is good, but not like very popular right now. It's just not the way the decks are being built. And Man-Thing, while being buffed recently, still doesn't like push the envelope very much. So you're really going after Scream. And for me, it sucks that they put the fodder in the cache. Like, come on, guys. Like, we're at a point, there's so many Series 5 cards that people want. Like, why are we reprinting Man-Thing and Mobius again? It's heartbreaking for me. This Spotlight cache sucks, except for Scream, right? And that's kind of the sad reality. Scream looks like an amazing card, but I really, like, even though I'm giving these 2 stars, it's because, like, they're playable cards. These should be 1 stars in terms of, like, value for the Spotlight key. It brings the overall week down. I think Scream has potential. I really like the card, but this is straight up fodder, right? And the cards aren't bad, but they're just not what you want from Spotlight keys. You know what I mean? And that takes us to October 8th to 15th. Now, this week is interesting because it's kind of the opposite of the prior week. Scream's week, you had a really, really, really good card, fodder in the Spotlight caches. Now you have a card that I think potentially can be quite good, but Misery is going to need some like legitimate deck building expertise and some testing to really work around. It's going to be a whole different activator for Destroy, so evaluating it in advance is tricky. I still see the ceiling, but I also see a little bit of a lower floor. But Misery is going to, I don't want to say age like fine wine, but it's the kind of card that brings something so unique to Destroy, and that future synergies are likely to really help Misery out. But then you got Namora and War Machine. War Machine just got recently buffed and then nerfed, and War Machine is definitely good right now. It's been a key shell of some of the top performing decks in the meta. War Machine is 100% playable right now. Whether you're playing the lockdown style decks or ongoing, War Machine is good. Namora is a fantastic card. Now, listen, you're looking at this 47% win rate and low popularity, thinking, Alex, buddy, how much grape juice have you been drinking tonight? Let me be honest with you. Namora is cracked, except right now. The meta in Marvel Snap is insufferable. It's probably the worst it's ever been, in my opinion, with all the junk and the garbage. It's a really, really rough meta right now. And all the junk and the garbage we're playing against, it destroys Namora. Namora's Spotlight cache could not be coming at a worse time because of the meta. Junks everywhere, disruptions everywhere, and Namora hates that, and it's really unfortunate because the card is incredible. It's just this is the wrong time for it. However, if you pass on Namora on the Spotlight Caches today, you're probably going to regret it because it's the kind of card that's irreplaceable in a lot of decks where it's found, and those decks have consistently been top 10 performers when the meta isn't a complete gong show. So, I like Namora a lot. I don't care about these stats. I think it's worth getting. I think this is overall a strong week. You're getting a unique card in Misery. It could potentially be hit or miss. Namora and War Machine, both legit. I think they should be in your collections. And that takes us to our next week. And again, like, this is a very skippable week, I think, especially for people looking for like free to play, you know, oh, I'll just spend tokens on Scorn type thing. I can see that, or just not get Scorn at all because you're like, I don't want to play discard, right? Scorn, I think, has really high potential in discard. It could even be a 5-star in discard. I like the way it's kind of like a different style of Apocalypse style play. Jean Grey is filth. Absolute garbage. I'm sick of these Series 4 cards being the Spotlight Caches. I want them gone. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Series 4 cards, get them out of the Spotlight Caches. I don't want to see them. The Sebastian Shaw, I'm giving 3 stars. Despite the mediocre stats, I think it has a very niche but very strong role in a couple of different decks, namely Silver Surfer, of course, which continues to be pretty meta relevant, you know, at the fringes of the meta. I love Silver Surfer. I think Sebastian Shaw is worth having. But as a Series 5 card, like, you don't want to spend tokens on it. Jean Grey's fodder. Scorn, I think, is going to be pretty good. I do think Scorn's pretty good. I think it's great for discard. What holds it back is how incredibly niche it is. It's not the kind of card you play anywhere else, right? You're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to put Scorn into a zoo deck. No, you're not going to do that, right? So one of you is going to try, and I respect that. But I think Scorn is a very high potential card for discard. And again, we just got a bunch of fodder here. And especially Jean Grey, like, oh, it's like the 6th time we've gotten Jean Grey. Like, I'm actually kind of tilted. Like, I didn't want to sound too negative, but I'm kind of pissed off with the quality of these Spotlight Caches. They're not good. The cards themselves, like the actual new cards, are probably fine overall. I think they're trying to balance them very conservatively while also giving them a lot of, like, you know, potential, and I respect that. But this Jean Grey, the Man-Thing, the Mobius, like, get that out of here. Toxin. 3 stars week as a whole, and I mean, possibly 2. This is like kind of like humming and hawing. Why do I hum and haw here? Well, I think Toxin's good. I think Toxin is a 4 to 5 star card, similar to what I think Scorn is. I think Toxin's probably going to be a little more competitive because I think Bounce can be more competitive. In the hand of a truly competitive Bounce player, I think Bounce has a higher ceiling than discard. I like playing discard, but Bounce is Bounce, right? Bounce, you've been outmaneuvered by a very talented Bounce player before. We all know that feeling, and I think Toxin has a very, very high skill cap and potentially a very high impact on the meta. The reason why I'm not sure about this week is because, again, you got more Series 4 fodder and Zabu. Elsa Bloodstone, not seeing play right now, but a good card. This is one of those situations where, like, Elsa is not being played right now, but it's just like, I don't want to give up on Elsa. There will come a time where Elsa's relevant again. It's just not this current moment. She used to be one of the most broken cards ever released, and they had to nerf her quite a bit. But Elsa, like, the time will come. I think it's worth having in your collection. But Zabu is interesting because the card sucks. It's actually seeing some experimentation in, like, Wiccan-based, like, Galactus decks, which perform okay. But still, like, he's generally just like, why would you play Zabu when you just play Psylocke? Like, Zabu has no identity when Psylocke exists. So the problem here is, like, okay, we got Zabu. I think they put him in the Spotlight Cache because they wanted to change him to an Activate and then have him in the Spotlight Cache. It's like, hey, check out this Activate card. It's Zabu. He's back. And they just, I don't think they figured it out yet. There's a chance that Zabu becomes an Activate card and the Spotlight Cache comes and all of a sudden it makes more sense. But as of right now, it's hard to evaluate. If Zabu stays as it is, this week is Toxin, and if you get Elsa, cool, and Zabu, you hope to dodge. But if Zabu becomes an Activate card with a similar effect, he might be worth picking up. And that's why this is a little weird. It's not even the weirdest week we have to talk about. And then we have Anti-Venom. Now, I've kind of talked myself out of this one. Anti-Venom is like, I can see this falling a little flat. But, like, again, you have Luke Cage, you have, like, opportunities, but, like, Anti-Venom, and you're like, oh, I'm going to play some Howard the Duck. Like, cool. Like, I got Howard the Duck deck coming, right? It feels like this could be a major whiff week. The other thing is it might be a free-to-play player Bastion, where you just get to say, you know what, I'm holding keys here. I don't necessarily need Anti-Venom. Anti-Venom seems like it could potentially be good. I'm just not as sold right now. And come, you know, this week in October, it's, like, still a month away. It's a long time away still. Things might change, right? The meta might shift, and suddenly, you know, things I might warm up to Anti-Venom a bit. But Ghost Spider, Series 4 again, more fodder. 49% win rate, high popularity because we're still, as of recording, like in the final reaches of the move season, right? So Ghost Spider's seeing play. It's also used in Phoenix Force, which is like a perennial awesome deck that nobody plays, except for you amazing Phoenix Force gamers out there. The dedicated Phoenix Force gamers, I should say, are the ones that play it. But what makes this week weird, and which could make it like a much better one from a star perspective, is what happens to Supergiant. I don't think Supergiant stays a 4-5. I think Supergiant becomes an activate, much like Zabu is. I think Zabu and Supergiant are in these caches because they're going to make them activate cards. Supergiant's going to have the same ability and just be slightly different costed, probably earlier on, like a 3 or a 2, right? 100%. I think Supergiant's ability is very easy to activate, use as an activate. I expect that change to happen, depending on how relevant that is. Like, think about Hellcow, completely unplayed, broke Hella. Can Supergiant do that? Maybe. And if that happens, this whole week changes, right? So it's kind of hard to predict where we're going from there. But like for me, Ghost Spider Series 4, also, we've had a ton of Ghost Spider. Like, ton of Ghost Spider. Again, it's like Jean Grey, Ghost Spider Man-Thing. We've seen Mobius. We've seen them so many times. But anyways, Anti-Venom, I'm less sold on. So this week feels like a skip to me. Then we have, we're on to the new month. Now we're like looking well ahead. And a lot can change here because we don't have the most latest data mines. They're going to be coming with the October patch, which is in a couple weeks, I guess, as of recording. And so we're kind of reaching a little further. And again, the meta can shift a lot here too. Fenris Wolf. I think Fenris Wolf is really good. The reason why is because I play a lot of Moon Knight, and Moon Knight often hits 6-costed cards. Seriously, it often hits pretty big cards because Moon Knight comes in, hits a 6-cost or whatever, and that's pretty cool. And then you can use this as an activate to bring a card back. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? And if it hits something garbage, I mean, people don't put garbage in their deck, right? But then you just don't activate it. So I kind of like how it could play. You also have of course, you have the Black Bolt synergy, but Black Bolt's hitting a cheaper card. I think Moon Knight and some of the more like targeted discard effects could potentially be really interesting. So Fenris Wolf, I have high hopes for. 3 stars, probably potentially 4-star in discard. But again, there's other opportunities for it to have a pretty big impact as well. Because like, hey, it might counter like destroy too, right? It might be a very hard counter to destroy depending on how the mechanics work, which we don't have confirmation of, right? So that's something worth considering. Then we have the Werewolf by Night, which has been a little outclassed by some of its counterparts lately, but it's still a Series 5 card. It's worth having, I think. It's crazy that, like, okay, when the Toxin comes out, does Werewolf by Night makes those decks? Like, that's kind of what we're looking to see. Like, okay, when Balance starts to make a comeback in this season with Toxin, is Werewolf a key component of that? If Werewolf makes those decks, the value of the Spotlight key cache increases. If Werewolf's not making those decks and Toxin's dominating, then, like, Werewolf's just dead in the water. Like, Werewolf is useless if it can't become relevant during that particular point in time. Then we have Annihilus. Oh, this is so weird. What a fall from grace. Annihilus should be a 5-star card, but you know what happened? Sentry got nerfed, and then like that was a huge power differential. You basically lost 4 power because you lost 2 on the Sentry, 2 on the Void. And then Annihilus kind of started to get weird because you can just Viper now, right? Like, Viper is a very effective disruption play. You have White Widow that automatically just shoots the negative over. So it's like, why do you need Annihilus? If you're not playing Sentry, you can just play, you know, Hood into Viper and junk the crap out of them anyway. Junk's already going insane. Why do you need to play Annihilus when you can just kick so much stuff over as it is? So that's kind of what happened with Annihilus. He used to be the all-in-one choice for anybody junk and stuff, and then now with Viper and everything, like we just have better options, more efficient options. Because Annihilus you could like anticipate, but you can sometimes you're just like, well, that Hood's coming over, I can't stop it. They're turn 3 Vipering, like what am I supposed to do, right? So Annihilus is in a bit of a tricky spot from that perspective, and it impacts the card, but I still really like it. It's weird right now as of recording. And this is actually October 1st now. It's so late. It's so late at night. It started in September. Now it's October at the start of the video. Crazy. We actually crossed over here. As we go to Malekith, Derp, we don't even know what this card does yet. Like, the data mines don't reveal what the card does, so this is kind of a useless conversation. I do think Thena has to be in your collection. Thena is amazing, and if Kitty Pride's ever relevant, you're never building a Kitty Pride deck without Thena, ever again, right? So Thena's going to be in those decks, 100% worth having. Not popular right now, but this card is cracked. It should even be 5-star if meta relevant. Valentina, Valentina's boo, let's be honest. Like, Valentina's not good. It's just not good. There was a moment where Valentina was being played with like Loki and stuff, like hand gen Loki, and now it's just like, if you're playing Valentina, you are more inebriated than I am right now. And that's saying a lot, man. So at the end of the day, Valentina probably kind of poo-poo and not worth getting. But Malekith, we got to find out what Malekith's going to do, because this obviously impacts the week. I'm sure we'll find out with the October patch. That's enough on the Nothing Burger of this week. As we go to Frigga, listen, I think this card's potentially pretty cool, and I wonder if I'm missing low here at 3 to 4 stars. You might be thinking, Alex, why don't you just Absorbing Man the card you played last time? Well, that doesn't always work. Sometimes you want to have that card in your hand, because that's pretty cool, right? Like having an additional card in your hand can be valuable. A 4/6 stat line, ability to copy a card into hand. That's potential. It has potential. And I think that like with some creative deck building, I think Frigga might be able to do some interesting stuff. And then we got Copycat, man. Oh, it's so heartbreaking. Copycat was my favorite card in Snap when it released. And then like they changed it from Steel to Copy. And like, I don't care what the stats say. It is a worse card. It feels worse. People are like, it's not that big a change. It's Copycat, not Steel Cat, blah, blah. That is cope. It is worse than it was before. It feels worse to play before, to the point that I haven't even been playing Copycat, because it just doesn't feel as nice as it did before. I miss old Copycat, okay? But it's still a good card. So I literally give it a 1-star potential off just because I'm sad and I'm mad. But honestly, it's a 4-star card. Still seeing a 12% meta share, 52% win rate. It's a good card. It's worth getting. If you missed Copycat in the initial Spotlight caches, let's be honest, it's coming back pretty, I wouldn't say it's pretty fast. I'm recording this October 1st. So like, it's still 2 months away, I guess. That's the reality of it. But you get to get Copycat, which might still be good. And then we got Red Guardian. I like Red Guardian a lot. It hasn't had the meta impact that a Copycat has, but as a tech card, I do think Red Guardian is really good. And there's going to be times you're like, Madam Web's all over the place, I need Red Guardian. Or Red Guardian's a really nice catch-all where like he never feels bad to play. Something like a Rogue can have higher win, like a win opportunity when you like steal the Iron Man or whatever, but Red Guardian's just like, nah, I'm just going to play it. Yeah. You know, I pumped the, whatever card it was there, and I'm 3/5. I'm just a 3/5. Who cares, right? And that's like the lowest line you probably get. Whereas with something like a Rogue, right, it's just like, okay, I'm a 3/2, and I didn't steal anything because I had to play it as a tempo card or whatever, right? So I do think that Red Guardian tends to be kind of underappreciated. This week's pretty good. I like this week a lot. It's definitely a 4-star week. I think Frigga might be pretty good, and Copycat's better than I am. I'm just angry. And then we go to Gorr, Havok, and Legion. Oh man, I think Gorr might be interesting. I like the fact that it's the way it's worded right now is like each. It's like, hey, it's both sides. Damn it, don't misread the card. It's both sides. It's both sides, right? And that's why it's a -3 to start. So it's keeping a track of both your opposing and your on reveal cards. Could potentially be quite powerful. But again, it's like, why are we putting Havok in here as a Series 4, right? And I actually like Havok, but let's be honest, it's not seeing play. It's not being played. Havok requires a very specific way to play Snap, like a very specific style of deck, and people just don't want to play that, you know what I mean? And I like Havok. I'm a Havok believer, and people just don't want to play that crap, man. So, like, it kind of feels bad that it's in Spotlight Cache when you could just spend 3,000 tokens if you're feeling spicy. And then Legion, another Series 4 card. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. That Legion, ironically, right now is playable because of the changes. We got the Storm, War Machine, Legion play, which is still kind of popular. Not the best cube rate, high win rate, though, as a recording. Legion's good. He's good. Havok is cope. Gorr is going to be probably pretty decent. Yeah, so it's like, okay. Yeah. You gave us a pretty interesting Series 5 card and then put filler in. I mean, not horrible filler. Legion's better than filler. But Havok's kind of disappointing. There are worse Spotlight caches than this. This might ultimately be, I almost want to take the bracket off and say this is a 3-star week. Legion's worth getting, and I think Gorr will probably be worth getting as well. Havok's the sus spot here. So, you know what? For what it's worth, I would take the brackets off and say this is a 3-star week maybe. Nah, maybe not even. I mean, Havok is so sus. Whatever. I'll let you decide. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys joining me here. It's the middle of the night here in Canada. I'm tired, but you know what? I'm so happy that you took the time to join us here today, and I hope this video helped you make your decision. We'll see you on the next one.